Man, but that's really cool. So when you look at what kind of lift is it took you to get to that point of yesterday? How exciting was that?
Yesterday was just living a dream, Jeff.
I bet.
Literally, it's one of those things where one of my rituals and habits that I've now made part of my lifestyle is each day I'll spend some time just visualizing, the reality of things I'm
Yeah.
working on, putting myself in a position of it actually happening. And I've been visualizing a day that the Selfish Servant book would be live and available for everybody to be able to learn more about my story and apply it to their lives and apply it to their own journey, so that hopefully we can have some impact on leaders who are growing right now. And so
Look,
I just been seeing it and visualizing, and yesterday was actually living that dream.
that's powerful, man. That is a really, I do the same thing. Somebody taught me that years ago. It's like wherever you're trying to get to, if you just think about it every day, visualize yourself. I like speaking. I always kind of walk myself out on stage in front of all those people, like a Tony Robbins moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Of,
for
uh,
sure.
um, man, you have just teed yourself up for an amazing intro. But let me tell everybody who we're talking to today. Um, Folks, I'll just tell you, I was reading, just trying to find someone who matches the theme of the Second Chance podcast, and I ran across Antonio McBroom. There's a couple things that caught my eye: rural America and ice cream. And folks, my heart's dear to that rural communities where I grew up at. And man, I tell you what, there ain't no better conversation that can and problems that can't be solved over a good scoop of ice cream. But I'm talking to from scooping ice cream from minimum wage to building an award-winning multi-brand empire. Antonio McBroom has redefined what it means to be a servant leader. Today, he joins us to share his journey, the most powerful of being selfish servant. And there's a space in there, folks. The power of being a self-space ish servant and how mastering time can transform both business and life. Man, I'm excited to get to know you, but I'm gonna put it out there. Um, my man just had a book launch yesterday. Today, folks, we were talking about March the 6th. He just had his book launch on March the 5th. So I didn't realize that that was part of the plan here was to talk about that book, man. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. I'm excited too. It's a blessing to be on here with you today.
Yeah, man. Tell me, and one way I like to kick off my guest is always like, tell me, what's a day in your life look like?
Wow. I'll start it with there's no day that looks the same, which I absolutely love. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And so that variety, flexibility, and dynamic nature of my life is something that I really enjoy. It's part of what I call CEO life for me, creating extraordinary life. The book Selfish Servant goes into deep detail about how do we all embrace some habits that help us create extraordinary life or CEO our own lives. And so for me, each morning starts with what I call my selfish time. Now, when I say selfish, I'm not talking about the selfish we all learn as little kids, where minds and you take possession. I'm talking about an elevated selfish, being self-aware and self-confident with a plan for self-improvement. So I'll kick my days off every morning with what they call the miracle morning. It's a prime time morning routine that's actually known by an acronym called SAVERS: silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. So I walk through each of those, and depending on how much time I've got, Jeff, I can do the whole SAVERS routine to some degree in 3 minutes or less, or I can go full Zen mode and spend all day in SAVERS mode. But for the most part, I love to start my days just in silence before I check the phone, check any text message, email, get other people's agenda starting to dictate my day. Let me just spend some time just in silence, gathering my thoughts. From there, building my confidence up through affirming, going through things that I've learned and ingrained in myself to affirm and build my confidence for the day is something I love to do. There's a cool app called I Am. We get so many text messages throughout the course of the day of different bad news and drama. But I am will send you text messages, and I got a set where it sends me text messages first thing in the morning of positive things, like I'm worthy, And after I do that, I'll spend some time in a visualization, seeing my day successful, or seeing a really big project that I know I can't finish that day. I might not even finish it that year, but seeing the end of it. So it kind of energizes me for the future that I'm working so hard to achieve. Obviously, if we don't feel good physically, we can't perform good. So exercise is really important. If I don't have a lot of time, I'm at least gonna bend down, touch my toes, kind of get my blood flowing by doing some arm helicopters or something. But some form of exercise, and I love to go ahead and do the gym in the morning. My likelihood of working out is highest in the morning than in the evening. So go ahead and do the hard work first. Then I spend some time reading, just educate my mind, getting some thoughts for the day. And even if you're busy and you don't have a book that you're reading right then, there's an app called Blinkist I go to where I can get a quick blink of a great book or something. And then lastly, I'll spend some time scribing or writing. And I've got a journal that I use, and I'll also go to my notes in my phone and just write down 3 things I'm grateful for and what are my 3 priorities that day. We all got long laundry lists of stuff to do, but I make sure each day I start with what are the 3 main things that if I do today, it's a successful day. So that's how I get going before I then go and introduce myself to the rest of the world for the day. I'm and so Jeff, I'm happy you asked that question of a day in the life. I just gave you a day in the morning before I even get going.
Yeah. Keep going. What's the rest of it? So you got that.
Yeah, once
Um,
once I got
you got that. Listen, man, folks, don't let's press pause for a second. Let's do some takeaways with what Antonio's telling us there. Um, that's like putting your car in gear. That is setting. That's putting gas in the car. That's putting in gear. That's making sure we are ready to go. Um, there's a lot of power in setting the tone of your day, distraction free, where it's you. I don't know how you work out. I tend to find I work out with a group sometimes,
yep,
and it because I'm a people person. That's why I enjoy that side of it. But listen, what Antonio's talking about, where if you can't, if you can't go to the gym or you don't have this routine, putting on a pair of shoes and going for a walk.
absolutely.
Just we get physical activity gets overshadowed by CrossFit and some of your more intense programs. Listen, folks, we ain't talking. We're not talking like a lot of lifting. We're talking, man, just move, just stretch and move and burn off some negative calories. That some of that overnight type stuff, dude. Man, that's a solid routine, and I appreciate that acronym. That's probably going on my mirror or going on my phone
Amazing.
because it's I don't I probably follow you all the way up and the journaling part is I very seldom use these. I'm always kind of on my phone, but there's a digital block. I think sometimes it kind of gets in the way of just some time, especially as the weather changes and gets warm. I like being outside first thing in the morning with that fresh air. And the
Absolutely.
last thing I was going to tell you is I use I am too.
Okay.
Um, and I'm a positive dude, right? It's hard to catch me. If you catch me negative, there's something bad going on in the world because I'm gonna find a way to figure out the positive. But one of my guests that told me about it, and even for me, man, it's nice because as a coach and the stuff like me and you do is a lot of my text is problem after negative after boom and hey Jeff, I need you this is fire, this is this or something I'm working on, or like hey, like I was getting those texts earlier from one of the guys I work with, Cashflow Mike. He was like da 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 da. He's hit me with some things where I fell short, and I'm like keep looking at it and then listen. I am pops in, boom,
There
with a
it is.
little bit of,
Yep.
with just a little bit of reminder, like, hey, man, it's all right. So, folks, don't discount the power of that morning routine. Keep going. Take us to
Yeah.
that next phase.
Once I'm primed up, that's when I can go from the selfish to the servant. And so I look for as I'm going through that routine, what is it that I can share with my family and my friends and my coworkers? What did I gather as I was going through I am, or I was doing some of my reading? Did I get any good kernels that are share worthy? And so I'll go, and me and my daughter, she's 15 years old now. We spend a lot of our quality time in the morning as I take her to school. So after I've done my savers, I'm gonna start rattling her, getting her up. I'll kick on some music, man. Music, how you
Yeah.
mentioned going outside and getting fresh air is part of my routine. I've got to get that fresh air, even if it's raining, but I definitely love when it's sunlight outside. Get that fresh air. And if I can do the exercise outside, walking outside, it raises that positive vibe in my vibration. But then I'm going to music. I start blasting music once I'm ready to wake everybody else up. And I love Kanye's "Good Morning." That's just a classic morning that people know in my house. You're gonna hear that first thing, and and then me and her, we'll get her to school. And after that, I'm ready to kind of go into my office and start knocking out those priorities. And it
Yeah.
takes different forms. Sometimes it's the form of I'm working directly with my leadership team, and we're solving issues for the company. Other times I'm meeting with a big client who's looking at having us come out and do a big ice cream event for their whole company. And so I'll go meet with that client and walk them through what that looks like. It takes many different forms, but I'll spend most of my time throughout the day just doing those really important things that I enjoy doing. And each afternoon, it's great sports time. I'm a sports fanatic. As you can
Really?
see with the light blue, I'm a Tar Heel, Carolina Tar Heels. I bleed light blue, and so I love playing sports with my family, and I love watching sports with my family. So we tend to do a lot with sports every afternoon.
Is your business? What is that? What is those problems that your business and your leadership team that you all solve?
Yeah, so the name of my company is Primo. And
Yep.
Primo is a multi-unit, multi-brand organization. We run Ben and Jerry's ice cream shops and Starbucks coffee cafes across the Southeast, from Washington, D.C. down to Houston, Texas. And so I've got a leadership team that's amazing. And really, they do the majority of the work. And my job is just to provide that coaching and that leadership and set the tone for culture. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's the company that I lead, and it's really a job of passion. I started as an ice cream scooper in a Ben and Jerry's
Yeah.
shop back when I
Tell
was,
me about it.
and that was, it was not only did I scoop this cool job, but I scooped a career that aligned with my values, Jeff. Ben and Jerry's was a company that before it was a popular thing, they had the triple bottom line. They believed that they had this product mission of making the best ice cream in the world, but also this economic mission to make sure that the business model worked not only for the owners and shareholders, but everybody involved, even the ice cream scoopers. And then lastly, this social mission that business has a responsibility to give back to the community. So as I was working with Ben and Jerry's as a scooper, I said, man, this is the type of job and the type of company that I'd love to continue to grow with. And so I became a manager when I was in college. And just 2 days before I graduated college back in 2008, I bought the ice cream store that I started at as a scooper.
Tell me about that. Walk us through there a little bit. That rural North Carolina. Uh, Rural for me sometimes was the best. The opportunities don't come to you as fast. Rural sometimes is figuring out like I got to figure out how to get out of this.
Yeah, man.
Um, but just your pocketed in those folks and just proximity, I think, is power. What is how did what does that look like for you growing up in young Antonio?
That's a great question, Jeff. So I was raised by my mother, my godmother, and my Mima. My
Yeah.
mom, Myron, was a single mother who was a teacher and educator, and but I spent most of my time with my Mima, and we lived a really old fashioned life, man. I'm from Golston, North Carolina. It's a small, no stoplight town in Chatham County, North Carolina, and with my Mima, she was just a walking hug, loving woman. Always had a hot pot on the stove, but it was old fashioned, man. We
Yeah.
had a wood stove that you go chop wood, and that's how you heated the house. We didn't have running water in the house. I'd actually get jugs and go to a neighbor's house about 200 yards away and fill that up with water that we use for cooking and for bathing, and that was my normal. I thought that was normal until I started playing sports and I went off to college, and that really drove me to figure out a way that I could create a better reality for my family.
Yeah.
And I still love country living. I live in Chapel Hill now, but I'm still in the kind of rural side of it because I love that peace and quiet and serenity. But I did realize that if I wanted to make a way for my family, I needed to start thinking big and thinking out of the box, and that's why I've invested in some of the coolest, fastest growing cities in the United States, from Atlanta, Georgia to Washington, D.C., Tampa, Florida. These are places that I continue to invest in. And then I take a lot of that back to my rural community to try to impact folks who are walking through what I went through.
Um, you know, you're graduate. When did you graduate high school?
I graduated high school in 2004.
So when we talk about folks, TV, some of my episodes I've layered in some of the same thing. I graduated in '92, so a little bit older than you. But when I grew up rural and said we didn't have running water, um, that was only for a short time. We used outside plumbing. We used outhouse
Yep.
for the restroom, and then I remember us when we with my grandmother. So just to tell you a little bit about me, single mom, very young when she had me. I went to high school with my mom too. Is what so I was there twice, is what I tell folks. But raised by grandmother and my aunt as well, and kind of come up in a similar type setting of what you're talking about. And um, I was always too small. Probably I could probably remember toting a little bit of water. And at the gym I ran, I would always use the saying that once you carry your own water, you appreciate how much it tastes.
Yep.
Um, so I tell people that now, like when you even with my kids is because they'll start talking about pressure. We're heavily vested in the athletics for them, and they'll sometimes the conversation go to pressure, and I'm like, look, man, when you go upstairs, you hit that button, that water's gonna come on, and you can walk in that refrigerator and you can get you whatever you want to eat. You have all those things, so don't pressure for you looks way differently than it is for a lot of kids. So I tell everybody that if you go back and listen to a lot of my story, you're talking that 74 to 79-ish phase of no water. You fast forward into later in life to where times are still catching up in a lot of our rural communities. And that's still going on today.
It is.
Um, with that, I call it pockets of poverty that are still affected. But sometimes country folks, we know what we know. You don't know, and just like your folks, you was raised. Was that farming town, tobacco town that your folks was around?
Yeah, lots of farming, poultry.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So ours was very agriculture, gardening. My grandfather had a little country store there that I was in and around, and that's probably my first exposure to business was through that as well, man. But where let's talk to that let's talk to that kid, Antonio. Do you feel like athletics was your thing that was able to take you to next levels, or did you have influences in your community or teachers that saw your potential?
Jeff, it was a combination of several things. For one, I was 6'1" in sixth grade. So, they called me Baby Shaq back then on the AAU basketball circuit, and that really helped a lot. That gave me exposure outside of just my small town to be able to go to some bigger cities and go to some basketball tournaments and build some friendships and stuff. And so that started. Now I haven't grown taller since then, and so so over time, what happened is my mom was diagnosed with a disease called lupus,
Yep.
and lupus is a disease that really attacks your joints. And I was in eighth grade at the time. I'll never forget. And she had that kind of grown up, come to Jesus talk with me from a standpoint of she wasn't sure how much longer she'd be with me. She let me know that there was no fairy tale ending of how I would go to college or and I had to figure out a way to make a way for myself. And she went through the stats of athletics at that age. I was always good at numbers, and she went through just how improbable it was to make it to the NFL or to the NBA. And that's where, I really got serious about academics. And I started using the intellectual gifts that I had. And I had a cousin named Eric Taylor who was 4 years older than me. So when I went to high school, I was a freshman and he was a senior, and he was a starting running back, and I was coming in and I was thinking I was going to put him on the bench, but that competition made us closer to each other.
Yeah.
And he took me under his wings and really showed me the pathway to be really successful in high school, so I could end up being the valedictorian of my senior class, and ended up getting all kinds of academic scholarships to different places. And so that's how I ended up at UNC Chapel Hill. I earned a Moorhead scholarship to UNC Chapel Hill, which is a full tuition academic scholarship with all kinds of amazing summer experiences. Jeff, that's what really started exposing me to the international, global side of things. And the first summer, I stayed in the U.S. and I went to Butte, Montana, and I did a program called Outward Bound, where I backpacked for 30 days. And this was right between high school and college, which was a good reset that I needed. A lot of my friends stayed at home and were up to nothing, no good. And I was out in the wilderness, unplugged from all of it, and really getting in tune with myself and setting a new vision for what I wanted to do now that I finished up high school. And so that gave me that entrepreneurial energy when I came to college to say, I'm focused and I know really clear. I want to get running water in my grandma's house. I want her to have a gas heater. She's too old to be chopping wood now. Let's get her a gas heater. And Jeff, why not get some cable TV while we're at it?
Yeah.
So that gave me that. While I was in college, I was focused on my grades, but I was really focused on creating this extraordinary life for my family. And what happened is, as I bought that first business, and that was a dream come true for my ladies, my mom, my me mom, my godmom. That was a dream come true. You couldn't tell them anything that we got, somebody in the family finally owning a business. And so that started breaking down barriers. And from there, I started, I had a wife. I also had my daughter Nia was born, and that just energized me even more to continue to grow the business. And as I was growing it and I was able to take care of my family, I had this amazing team of folks who looked at me as their leader. And, yeah, they might have started with me when they were in high school, but now they up in college and figuring out what they want to do with their career. And for some of them, I wanted to create opportunities for them to continue to have good, growing employment with me. And so we just kept growing the business and growing the business. And it's just been a remarkable journey over these 17 years.
Man, that is so amazing. One of the things I teach, a lot of folks come to me want to start a business, and they come to me feeling guilty about making money.
Mm.
And they just feel like, they're like, I want to start this business, I want to start a nonprofit, I want to do this, I want to do that. Or they come in, they're like, we'll start this business, I want to start this coaching program over here where I want to help the community. And it helped me kind of coin a phrase that I use of broke people can't help people. And you layered that in to where your vision was grandma's going to get some cable TV. That was one of those things where, but your money's coming in and you're able to complement all the stuff you're helping with. You had a quick understanding of how money fuels all that, how you presented that to where you had an understanding of, this is a business and this is what it takes, and I'm going to start this business, and then you land there, and then you have this ability, this income starts to come to you that allows you to break that curse. That's my point. I don't know if you can see my screen, but like that's where that was born, was just how I come up, and knowing that if the right, get around the right people, surround yourself, suffer a little bit in on your own, silence, working out like you said, going on that backpacking trip, spending that time, man. There's so much power in just that little bit of journey that you shared with me that led to you being able to rewrite your family tree, man.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. You're absolutely right.
How's your 15-year-old? What's she think? Did you ever take her back to the old house? You
Oh
ever?
yeah, we're down there regularly. And the thing I love is that she'll take some time and go down that way with her friends now. I mean, she's
Yeah,
got such a different reality. than what
Yeah.
I grew up with. You know,
Yeah.
we talk about it, and not in any kind of bragging way. It's just, look, we had we had a red bucket for a toilet and a Johnny house in the back growing up. And, you know, she's got 7 different bathrooms in the house that she grows up in, and she can
Yeah.
go to, you know, she can do one each day of the week if she
Yeah.
wants to. And this just, but she keeps that humility and those humble roots. And my mom and her are actually like soul sisters. So she'll go
That's
down there
awesome.
and hang out with my mom, just because. So it's, I make sure we kind of we stay firm in where we came
Yeah.
from, you know.
We stay connected to that too. I grew up in a little more. I was going to ask you about something here in a second. I'll tell you a little bit. I grew up in a little more uncertainty, a little more violence. My grandfather liked to drink, have gunplay, and he so I sat on a lot of this stuff internally for too long. So now I enjoy telling the story, speaking about it, talking about breaking curses, and but I waited for my kids to get a little bit older, so I layer in more about something will come up or whatever, and I go, hold on here. You know, I don't ever want you all to experience what I went through in the life that I had. I said, but I need you to understand that it exists
Yeah,
because it's y'all's job to not let our family, your family, whoever that gets to, go back to those situations. And I teach them about what money, how it, because you grow up, there's a negative connotation all the time around money. Like the money don't grow on trees, the light bill, all that stuff you had to hear. And when you finally get there, you're like, no, no, no. There's plenty of money. There's plenty of money for everybody to get it. So I try to really work with them on different mindset things, but I like what you said. I need them to understand. So I sat down with them here recently and told them about my mom. My mom went through extra layer hell that I didn't have to go through. But I told them, I was like, this is what your grandmother had to deal with. And this is where I stepped in. And this is all the things I dealt with. And here's what we've kind of found out over time that maybe some of my family's not really my family. So I call myself, I call my buddy the other day, I'm like, hey, I'm a little more nomad than what I realized. Um, so just raised from different folks. And so I tell them all that to let them know, like, you're the first tree, the first little branches that come off of this new family tree. And if you know whatever you decide, if you wanna be known as the folks that kind of settled, that wasn't pushing through, that didn't have high expectations, that's up to y'all. But here's what's gonna happen in 20, 30 years, when somebody's going through genealogy, they're going to see these first branches come off of this guy right here and your mom. So it's up to y'all to decide what you want that impact to look like. Um, so they really, my son, like I think it motivated him a little bit on just where, you know, I don't want to burden them, but they
yeah.
got to understand. Yeah, they just gotta understand what goes on in the world, and how easy it is to lose um, all the things that Antonio worked for, or Jeff worked for.
Jeff, you're spot on with that, man. And you know, I that's one thing me and my wife Katie talk about often. We don't want to put this shield over our kids' eyes of everything's perfect and everything's gonna always be perfect and everything's always been like this. And so I think you're wise in doing that, and that's exactly what we look to do with our family, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that, dude. Um, you, where's dad? You ever met your dad?
So my bio dad, Vance, was incarcerated on my first birthday. Yeah, and he stayed incarcerated up until I was 15. And when he got out, we worked to establish a relationship. He introduced me to a brother I didn't know, so I met a brother, Raphael. I call him Rafe. Me and him are really close now. And his son, my nephew RJ, and my daughter are the same age and just the best of friends. They live in Charlotte, North Carolina. We spend a lot of time together on the boat. He's a big boater, and so we have a
Yeah,
lot of time on the lake. And but yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things where I didn't meet him till I was 16, and my bio dad, he passed away not long after we had got connected. Whenever he was free, and you know, but that's my legacy, man.
yeah,
And I, you know, I'm happy that I was able to, you know, channel a lot of the hurt that I felt as a kid and use that for motivation. And then on the other side of it, let some of it go and forgive people and move forward. So,
Um,
the key.
Along the way, and this comes up in my conversations too. You're talking about forgiving people. Learn how to forgive yourself.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's always a tough one. That when I in a lot of my conversations, sometimes people, well, I forgave this person, I got right with this, and then I'll come like, hey, what about you? You know,
Yeah.
you got to pause and acknowledge that old Jeff or that old Antonio. Just like, hey, you didn't know no better than what you did back then. So just forgiving yourself and moving on from some of those shortcomings that where we fell short in life or of expectations or things that I used to have things that would pop in my head, old memories. I'm like, why you keep nagging me? And
Yeah.
finally, I just had to just be like, hey. I'm sorry. I forgive myself for that, and found some other tools that really helped me process some of that, some of the negative childhood that I had, um, to where I could really talk to that 5-year old, 10-year old, 15-year old Jeff and just say, hey man, you didn't know no better. You can't help what grown folks was doing around you back then.
Yeah, man.
That's You are where you are now. The other thing we can't do is tell a story without all of that.
Right. You're
Right?
spot on.
You can't tell a story. Tell us, all this journey takes you to your book.
It
Um,
does.
tell me what's that? What's if we want to encourage folks, we're going to put backlink. We're going to put this episode out. You just released it yesterday on the 5th, March 6th. We're going to get this episode out ASAP. But why should somebody go read that book, my man?
The reason somebody should go read the book, The Selfish Servant, is because it does a really special thing in terms of giving you my story, and I'm giving you authentic experiences that I went through so you can vividly see it, but also tying it to direct lessons with leadership and with business. So oftentimes you have a book that's just a memoir, or you have a book that's just a self-help book or a business book, but this kind of ties it all together. And most importantly, it weaves in servant leadership and the pieces of my faith that are so important to me. And so I think that there's so many folks that like me and you, Jeff, that us at 15 or 16, you could read this book and it could add value. But I also think that there are folks who are in their 70s that can read this book and add a
Yeah.
lot of value. And so I really took the approach with the book to be very authentic, to give folks permission to be selfish, so that they can live a life of serving others at the top of their game. And so it's a really special book. I'm excited for folks to spend some time with it and get feedback on it.
Are you going to do an audio version?
Absolutely, there's an
You
audio
gonna read it? You gonna read
narrated
it?
by yours truly. Yes.
Yeah, all right. I'm waiting. I'm excited about that, man. you, uh, I can listen to you read the newspaper, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm because your accent, mine. You're the voice I grew up around. You're the voice of my friends in school, just with your accent and that. You carry that country. You carry a little country with you when you
Yes,
talk,
sir.
and
Wherever I go.
uh, yeah. So you have that voice of my friends that when I get excited to see them, because I don't get to see them that often, but when I run into them, man, you have that same, you carry the same accents that we do from those rural communities, man. So I've got it pulled up here, but I might pause on it so I can get the audio version too.
Oh
So
man, it's coming soon. It's already recorded, and it'll be out in the next couple of weeks as well.
I'm gonna backlink your book. Um, can't thank you enough for spending some time with me, and I want to value your time. But if folks want to connect with you,
Yeah,
and they want to, are you doing any speaking from your book or?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
you can connect with me by going to selfishservant.com. And there you can find more information about the book, more about my story. And I do professional coaching for high performers. And I also do keynote speaking. So if you
yeah.
got groups of folks that you think that I could pour into and have some impact with, that's what it's all about for me at this stage in my career. My company is in great hands. My business partner, Philip Scott, my chief operating officer, he runs the business completely. He started with me as a marketing intern and now oversees the whole thing. And so it's allowed me the platform to be able to come and share the selfish servant with the world.
Yeah.
And I'd love to share it more through speaking with groups of young leaders and businesses. And so I'd love to stay connected with anybody who wants to.
Well, absolutely, and anything that I can do to push to help your message get out there, man. It's you speak on topics. I joke about ice cream, but you speak in topics of. Um, Bryce Henson's a fit body guy. He's the CEO of Fit Body Boot Camp. I'm a franchise owner, good friend of mine, but he grew up trailer park. And so we always kind of coined this phrase about inspiring those little trailer park kids from rural America that
Absolutely.
sometimes we don't talk about. So he and I ended up in a meeting, so we got to know each other. And so now through that connection of similar like you, single mom, all the things, he and I share a little more common with some violence and just some different little stuff. But I message him from time to time, and I'm like, man, whatever you're doing today, make sure you keep in mind them little trailer park kids out there that's looking up
Absolutely,
for you,
man.
looking up to you from rural America. That you giving them hope, and
Yeah.
that's you fall right in there with the folks that I love calling hope dealers, and that's what you are, my man. So
Well, Jeff, I appreciate that. I'm so excited that we're connected now, and I look
yeah,
forward to continue to build. Please invite me back, and
oh
let's
definitely.
continue to build together.
I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being on.
Yes, sir.